Dr. Noah Kaufman, MD, is with us talking about the bull case for Bitcoin. He is a very successful investor. He knows his stuff. He's a serial entrepreneur. All I'll say is check him out on Twitter and hear him out. He makes a very strong case for why Bitcoin is an early stage investment and has the potential to at least 10x. So it's worth a listen. Here is Dr. Noah Kaufman. You're fine. Thanks so much for taking the time to share your thoughts on Bitcoin.
Oh, absolutely. It's a pleasure to be here.
Why do you think Bitcoin is going to be a good long-term investment and the price is going to go up?
Well, it's a great question. I think first off, I don't think that Bitcoin is necessarily an investment. It's interesting, right? That's like thinking about having dollars as being an investment. And I guess you could, but really Bitcoin it's this whole new thing. It's a whole new asset class, and it's just a technological breakthrough. And it's really the world's first and only actually verifiably secure finite asset class. And so, there's only ever going to be 21 million Bitcoin, of which there's like 18 million created right now. To have that kind of level of scarcity, and then to improve on the qualities of other safe haven stores of value, such as gold or other precious metals or real estate or art or collectibles, to have that now in a digital form, which is not widely adopted yet, but follows like this kind of natural adoption rate. It's not really so much an investment as it is a whole different asset class where you would put money and never sell it, but the thought is someday maybe convert a little bit when you need it, or maybe there'll be a way to actually use it in its own right for transactions down the line.
So what do you think will be a catalyst for why its value will go up?
Right. So, there's 21 million Bitcoin. Each Bitcoin can be separated into 100 million pennies, basically. They call these things sats for Satoshi, the guy or the team that created Bitcoin. But so each Bitcoin, you can buy fractional pieces of Bitcoin, and there's only, like I said, 21 million of these things. It's kind of like the big boy in the club. All the other cryptocurrencies, it's like way out ahead. It has a market cap of $350 billion, which is bigger than any bank right now. It's bigger than most companies. And when you think about network effect and you think about the way that new technologies are adopted, it's like Facebook. Take Facebook or Amazon or whatever. Facebook is this social network. Amazon is like this kind of retail buying network. Apple's like this mobile network. But whenever you have these network effects, it's like you use it and you believe in it and it works, and then your friend uses it, and then you get your family to use it, and then everybody's on Facebook all of a sudden. And now Facebook has a couple billion users, and guess what? All of a sudden they IPO, they monetize, and it's off to the races. And so, all the people who were buying Facebook when it IPO'd at $30, it had a little dip and it was volatile in the beginning, but you can see what these network effect companies do. So Bitcoin is not a company, but it's this incredible store of value. It has incredible intrinsic value as this new, unbelievable technology. And what's happening is it's slowly being adopted. And, right now, less than 1% of people know or, about Bitcoin or use Bitcoin, but that's changing rapidly. Actually, there's probably about 37, well, this is known data, there's about 37 million users in the European Union. In the US, it's like 16 million. The rest of the world's like 11 million. Asia is about 17 million. And so, right now, if you've got something on the order of 80 million users, that's not very much, obviously. But, the estimates are that it's going to go up to 180 million users in the next couple of years. And then who knows, in the next 5 or 10 years. But the thing is that as Bitcoin has more users, then the price necessarily is going to go up because it's simple supply and demand. The supply is fixed at 21 million, and the demand is accelerating. And the demand right now is all the smart money. You got Paul Tudor Jones, you've got Michael Saylor, CEO of MicroStrategy, putting $500 million to work into Bitcoin. And you just have people, kind of rushing into Bitcoin. The retail, kind of zombie hordes haven't even started yet. And so when you have a fixed supply and you have accelerating demand, that's a pretty simple equation for price goes up. And so that's part of the reason why JP Morgan, recently came out and said, and this is JP Morgan who said, a couple of years ago said Bitcoin's a total farce. And now they're calling for $140,000 price tag per coin. Citibank came out. These are major banks, that were just actually given legal rights to custodian these cryptocurrencies. And so, Citibank just came out with a $318,000 price target by the end of 2021. That's by the end of 2021. And if I told you that any stock, if Citibank came out and said, oh, the price of this stock is going to go up, from 18 to 318, that is like as bullish as you can get. And, that's pretty insane. And the reason is because of this Metcalfe's law, this adoption curve, it's more likely for that to happen than not. And it's more of a mathematical thing than is this company going to make money? Because this is an asset. And so if you look at the traditional stores of value like gold and, let's just look at gold. Gold's about a $10 trillion market cap, safe haven asset. And sure, you could say it's been manipulated or not or whatever. Gold's near an all-time high right now. But the fact of the matter is it's about $10 trillion. And then the world has about $250 to $300 trillion, stored in all forms of assets, global equities and, bond markets and real estate and whatever. That's how much money there is. So gold is like, very, very small part of it. Bitcoin is down in, $350 billion market cap. And I'm sorry, gold is 10 trillion, and global is 250 trillion about. So if Bitcoin even goes, to the place where gold's at as a $10 trillion market cap, then you're looking at each coin being about $500,000. And each coin right now, I think as of today, is somewhere in the $18,000 range. So, you're dealing with an asset class that the world has never seen. It's like the first truly finite, deflationary, and truly scarce. And there's all kinds of arguments against it, and it's imperfect, and sure. And these things, can be corrected. Unlike gold, which, is always going to be heavy and pretty and expensive to mine and expensive to take out of the ground and expensive to, and can still be counterfeited, by the way. They just found like a ton of gold bars in China that were, I think, pieces of lead or something that were, painted gold. So, Bitcoin, recently they transferred $1.1 billion in Bitcoin. It cost about $4 to transfer that Bitcoin. It was one of the safest transactions in the history of transferring that amount of money. And it happened in about, 30 minutes. That alone is an incredible amount of value. So there's intrinsic value, there's this technological value, and now you've got all these smart money people endorsing Bitcoin, going into Bitcoin. It's fascinating times. I mean, you got the second richest man in Mexico just went public he put 10% of his net worth into Bitcoin. It's unbelievable. And so it's only a matter of time before, the Robin Hooders and the real money starts flowing into it and FOMOing into it. I mean, a lot of these money managers can't even touch assets that don't have like $1 trillion market cap. And Bitcoin is on its way. And so once it gets there, it can start being incorporated into, all kinds of mutual funds and whatnot. So I think that there's a clear case for price goes up, number goes up, but it's, it is also a new thing and it's crazy. And I think that everybody has to understand that there is risk. It's good to be bullish. I think the real risk is not owning any, but you have to be diversified. And I think that it'd be silly to go all in on Bitcoin, but to not have like, a 1% of your portfolio allocation to Bitcoin is that's like a bigger risk because it's such an asymmetric trade.
I mean, it seems like the train has already left the station and the demand is picking up like crazy. It's institutionalized now, and I can see why what you're saying. It's a scarce asset. A lot of people are going to want it. Therefore, supply demand says it's going to have to go up, and clearly that's what's happening. So that's all well and good. So, what some of the risks
Yeah.
are that people like to point out, right? Because there are a lot of Bitcoin critics out there. One of them is that okay, the U.S. government is never going to let Bitcoin compete with like a digital dollar in the future as a currency because they want to keep control of their own currency. So they would shut it down. That's one criticism. Do you have a thought on that?
Yeah, I mean, so look, there's all kinds of criticisms, and could they become true? Yes. And if you're risking 1% of your portfolio, could you lose 1% of your portfolio? Yes. So I can't discredit any of these arguments. I think that there are counter arguments, and I can present some of those, but people can still say, no, 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 it's going to get outlawed. Why would a government allow this? Blah, blah, blah. And, I'll get into that. And for that reason, I'm diversified. I own real estate. I own, miners, and I own long options on miners. I own physical silver and gold. I own, artwork. So it's like, you really can't, I mean, people do get religious on Bitcoin. Trust me. I know that people get very cultish on it. And I think that it's still speculative. I think that, I'm overweight in it for sure. But, if you were to put more than 5% of your net worth in it, I mean, you're definitely starting to gamble. And some of the arguments are, government's going to outlaw it. Why would a government allow it? And the counter arguments are numerous. Some of them are like, well, it's the same as gold. They tried to outlaw gold, and then there was this black market, and it wasn't outlawed in every country. And then finally, they had to, uh, unoutlaw, I don't know, legalize gold ownership. And and how is Bitcoin different? And then there's another argument. You've got senators, you've got a lot of people in the aristocracy who own Bitcoin. I mean, a lot of politicians own Bitcoin. And especially as the demographics change and you got all the kids of today becoming the successful entrepreneurs and technocratic leaders of tomorrow, they're all going to own Bitcoin. So, and then furthermore, you've got game theory, which says, okay, if you outlaw Bitcoin here, then you're going to, allow it someplace like Venezuela, where if they're burning their money because it's worthless, people are going to decide to transact in Bitcoin, because you can't really transact in gold. You can't pull out a gold bar and shave off like a little fingernail and say, okay, here's your $6 or whatever and 42 cents worth of gold, or but you can do that with Bitcoin. You could say, here's your 632 satoshis or whatever. And so the arguments that governments are going to outlaw it, I don't think so. I think the Fed is going to make a Fed coin. I think there's going to be cryptocurrency, fiat cryptocurrencies, but they're going to have to be backed by something. I think that we're heading into some really scary places with the amount of money printing we're doing. And if the dollar loses all value and it loses confidence, then you're going to need to have alternative assets or make a new dollar and reset the whole system, or have a debt jubilee, or whatever it is. Right now they're debasing it by inflating our way out of it. And with these 0% interest rates, they've killed the bond market, and all this money needs to go somewhere. So it's going to inflate assets. It's going to inflate the stock market. It's going to inflate Bitcoin. It's going to inflate gold and silver. It's going to inflate real estate. But at some point, if the dollar really starts to crash and Bitcoin gains value, they could tax the heck out of it. They could, whatever it is, it's a risk. And I think there's a lot of counter arguments. We don't know what's going to happen, but I don't think that they're going to want to stop the evolution of human understanding of money, which I think is someday going to be something like Bitcoin, if not Bitcoin, is how we're going to transact. It's not going to be centralized, so that the dollar is weaponized right now. Other countries, are just really hurt by the Eurodollar system. And so ultimately, if we can adopt like a Bitcoin standard and whatever it is, maybe there's a better version. Bitcoin is it's the fastest horse. It's way out in front. It's the Facebook compared to MySpace or whatever. I think that that's going to have to be worked into the system, just like gold and silver are. But again, it's a risk. So you don't put all your eggs in one basket. The other arguments are like some big solar flare comes and wipes out every computer. Like, I don't know, meteor hits the earth, something like that. But in every scenario, Bitcoin's this, it's based on the blockchain, which is this just really kind of unbelievable technology where all of a sudden you can make something that's actually like not hackable. And the bottom line is, if we ever put colonies on the moon or Mars, we're not going to like send them gold or silver, or we could send them digital dollars if they're worth anything. But the problem is, if you have unlimited supply and you create, infinitely more supply, then what happens to the demand? There's no demand. If you have if each one of us had $1 billion instantly right now, it would be very confusing, right? Like, you'd go to the store and you'd be like, well, I'll just buy everything. So that can't happen, but that's what they're doing. We printed 22% of all the money we've ever printed last year, and it's going to get even worse over the next couple of years, and that money is going to find its way into the system. And so there's a lot of risks, and you can address each one, and if you have another one, I can make a counter argument. And so that's why, just like gold and silver, Bitcoin is probably a good hedge. It's a good insurance policy, and instead of an investment, it's like something that's probably going to appreciate just because of FOMO and because it's so scarce and actually finite. So, where's the real risk? All of life is risk. And I think the risk here is not having an allocation to something that has gone up, like 20,000% since 2013.
Yeah, and I'm starting to see like kind of what you're saying, in that, like, let's say the US government sees widespread adoption of it and that it's actually competing with the dollar. Well, if that's the case, then the value of each Bitcoin is going to be through the roof, right? So, just based on that adoption. So it's like, well, if you're worried about the government ending it, well, then you're going to have missed out on it getting to that point.
All the smart money is going into Bitcoin, right now. It's like, if you look at, Bitcoin had this big bull run in 2017. It was huge. And we're back almost up to all-time highs. And look, I don't know what's going to happen. I'm bullish on Bitcoin, but I'm not like, a religious zealot about it. Like I said, I probably own more gold and silver and real estate and stuff. But do I wish I had more Bitcoin? Yes. Am I too scared to buy more because it's so speculative? Yes. So, I think that in the big rally in 2017, if you look for Google searches on Bitcoin, it spiked and went through the roof. And it was just like this huge retail flood into Bitcoin. You're not seeing that right now. We're back up to all-time highs, but there's almost no searches on the internet for Bitcoin. And it's all people like Paul Tudor Jones and, all these other famous investors and hedge fundies, and they're buying with their personal, and CEOs and tech, and and they're the smart money positions early, and they stay there. There's right now they're still mining Bitcoin. Someday that's going to be over. I think we've got 18 million Bitcoin that we've made, but the max that there's going to be ever is 21 million, and then they shut down all the mines. There's not. They can't even. There are no more Bitcoin to mine. It's all of a sudden over. And so there's right now in the world, there's I think there's over 40 million. There's something estimated like 45 million millionaires in this world. Well, there's only 21 million Bitcoin in this world. So if the dollar really starts falling apart and every millionaire is like, well, crap, I should put 1% into Bitcoin. I mean, there's like 1,000 ways for Bitcoin to go to $100,000 a coin, like 1,000 really easy ways. And then there's another like 500 ways for it to go to $1,000,000 a coin. It's worth, I think that it's at least worth doing the due diligence. It's at least worth understanding the asymmetry of the trade and the fact that most people, most of the smart money, most of the money that's going to Bitcoin now, they're not trading. They're not waiting for 100K just so they can sell for dollars. Why would you sell for something that is melting away, the value of which is melting away? Like maybe sell it for, why would you sell for gold? I mean, just own an equal amount of gold or something. If Bitcoin wins, then gold's going to be, just a shiny rock on your desk. It's going to be really pretty, but it's going to have no use whatsoever practically, which is kind of scary, if you own a bunch of gold. It's very, very interesting times, and Bitcoin is a fascinating wild card. I'll just say real quick, the other thing that Bitcoin does is it solves a lot of problems, because right now all these other asset classes in dollars, especially fiat dollars, the poor are getting poorer, the rich are getting richer, because you make money super cheap, and then businesses can borrow and rich people can borrow and invest, and then asset classes are inflated. We've basically penalized savers. So most of the people who own the stock market are already rich, and they're getting richer. And so, when you think about the dollar system and how you can just create infinitely more dollars, they just change the rules around, and they just, and it's better for the bankers. And it's like this big cartel. And, everybody's in on it in the inner circles of the ultra wealthy, and they get richer and richer and richer because they just change the rules to benefit themselves and their friends. And there's a lot of crony capitalism. There's a lot of problems with trusting a third party. But when you decentralize money, then you can't really, you can't manipulate it like that. You can't make more of it. You can't, everybody's Bitcoin is going to be worth the same. And, it's, if you have Bitcoin now, then it's gonna be worth the same, and nobody can really kind of control it or screw it up. Every empire that has ever existed, Ray Dalio's got really great work on this, really fascinating papers and whatnot. And every empire that has ever existed lasts for like 150 years or something like that, and then it crashes, and there's a new empire that comes up. It's recency bias is the only reason that we think that the dollar system is going to continue. But this has happened numerous times in the past, and we're at the end of a massive credit cycle. Debt to GDP is like well over 100% in this world. And so, there's obviously some big shifts happening in the geo kind of political macroeconomic environment. And so, that's a lot of risk, and we need to deleverage. The only thing they can think to do now is print more money so we can inflate our way out of the debt. It's insanity. And so Bitcoin really puts the power into kind of normal people's hands. But there's going to come a day, when there's going to be very few people who own one Bitcoin, and one Bitcoin is going to be probably worth $1 million or something more. I mean, it's who knows? I don't, or zero, right? It's hard to say.
We're all about finding getting in as early stage as possible to investments, right? Because we want to find that Apple, Google. Obviously, if you try to buy an Apple now, is the market cap going to go to $10 trillion? Like, that seems unrealistic, right? To really try to multiply your money. So you think Bitcoin is still early stage, right?
It's extremely early. It's extremely early. It's like, it's way, way pre-IPO. It hasn't even been adopted yet. It's like, imagine when Facebook was, only had 1% of the world using it. It wasn't even monetized at that point. It wasn't even being used. There were problems with it. There were, bugs and whatnot. Now, Facebook's just a behemoth. Bitcoin is the same way. Like the fact that you can buy a whole Bitcoin, and not being like a billionaire, it's super early days. People how do you use Bitcoin? It seems like it's complicated. It's pretty easy to buy and sell now, and there's great apps. There's apps where you can earn like 6.5% on your Bitcoin. And I'm not recommending that, but there's like all these decentralized finance systems that are being grown along with the whole cryptocurrency, technological advancements. But the bottom line is, it's absolutely super early days. I think anything. This is just going to sound crazy, but remember, this is network effect. This is like a currency. It's not a company. It's not like an investment per se in the strictest definition. This is like saving your money from melting away in cash. It's protecting your purchasing power. And look, it's a scary thing. When I say each Bitcoin is going to be worth $500,000 a coin, that's like not a good thing. I don't want that, because that means that a loaf of bread is probably going to cost, $50 or whatever. I went shopping the other day and, to Costco, and we got I remember going shopping and it was like $80 or $100 to go shopping. I don't know, it's like 20 years ago or something. We were at Costco and it was like a $500 bill, and we didn't like buy a TV or anything. It was all food. And so, if each Bitcoin is, $1 million a Bitcoin, but houses cost $30 million each, then it's a problematic future where Bitcoin does so well. But yeah, I think we're extremely early. I think we haven't experienced inflation in over 50 years, like real inflation. And we're in this kind of monetary endgame where there's no way out for the dollar. I think it's extremely early. And I think that a lot of the smart people out there think it's extremely early. So, again, if you buy it at $18,000 or, $7,000 or $25,000 a Bitcoin, I don't think that matters at all, especially since it's so asymmetric and you've got, 1 to 5% of your net assets into Bitcoin. And by the way, I say Bitcoin, not the other cryptocurrencies. Those are complete gambles. But I think it's extremely, extremely early. Wait till this thing IPOs, aka is like adopted by enough people that the use case becomes extremely strong.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was going to ask you about the alts, because what people always try to do is they'll see they'll see gold, but they'll immediately want silver because they're like, oh, it's cheaper. I want more upside. So it does seem like that is the kind of way things will go, right? People will crowd into the alts too at some point.
Well, yeah, yeah, for sure. But that's like buying silver miner explorers or a gold miner explorer. The explorers are super speculative. They might not even find anything versus the producers, and the miners. And so, yeah, all the altcoins and the whole altcoin market, look, you might have something that this is a big technology. This is the biggest thing since the internet. And I think Bitcoin is the clear winner. It's way, way so far out in front. And because of network effects and because of, studying any other network that has been so far ahead of its peers. Once a network like that becomes $1 billion market cap, and Bitcoin's like 350 billion now, and if it's like 20-30% ahead of its closest competitor, which Bitcoin is by capitalization, there's really no evidence of any time that first mover has been overtaken. But there might be some names in the altcoin space that do very well. Look, I think it's way more speculative. I own a bunch of them with money that I anticipate losing, or at least if something goes crazy and is like silver to gold, as whatever Ethereum is to Bitcoin, then I'll just convert it into Bitcoin. Honestly, that's my goal. If something goes 100x, and Bitcoin has only gone 2x or something, then definitely gonna, there I'll trade, but I'll just trade into Bitcoin. There's certainly a lot of use cases. I like coins like VET. VET is great. ETH is great. I think that, there's a lot of sketchy coins out there that are probably going to go to zero. But I think that a lot of these coins, look, Bitcoin is immutable and there's 21 million of them. All these other altcoins, they can change the amount of altcoins that there are. They can change the rules. They can program these things. Most of them are based on Ethereum. And there's a lot of applications for them, but the applications aren't really store of value. They're more like smart contracts and QR code tracking for businesses or for voting or for whatever. Like, the technology is amazing, and it's going to be applied over the next decade or 20, 30 years and create incredibly valuable companies. And I think maybe the companies are worth investing in more so than the actual underlying tokens or altcoins. But Bitcoin is here to stay, and Bitcoin is a million times safer than all the other altcoins.
Have you heard the Tether argument?
Yeah, Tether being like a US dollar analog.
Yeah, and then they're saying that they're like printing tethers, like just adding market cap to the market, but the price is staying the same. So they think that'll destabilize the whole Bitcoin universe, kind of like a Ponzi scheme unraveling would. I know, like you're saying, there are risks. This could be one of them. But have you thought about that particular one at all?
Yeah, certainly. And look, and that's the exact same argument as the US dollar. They're doing the same thing with the dollar. They're just printing gazillion dollars, and $1 is worth $1. And what's going to happen is, the same. It's the same with Tether, and the same with the dollar, or the same with anything that you can just tinker with the supply side like that. Yeah, it could unravel, but is that going to affect the price of Bitcoin? Well, I don't think so, because there's only 21 million Bitcoin, and Bitcoin and Tether are not tethered, like the only way they're associated is that Tether is an asset that you can use to buy Bitcoin, just like dollars, or you can convert gold into Bitcoin or anything. So it doesn't matter if Tether blows up. If Tether blows up, it's more likely to affect probably other altcoins that aren't immutable, and that also aren't supply constrained or limited like Bitcoin is. So I know that there's more complexity to the argument, but I think that the argument's overbaked. And look, there's so many arguments that you can make against Bitcoin. And when I was an early stage investor, we made a hedge fund to invest in Facebook before the IPO. And so we invested cheaper than the IPO price. Okay. And when we were doing that, I can't tell you how many arguments against Facebook there were. Oh, they're not going to be able to monetize it, and what happens when they get all these people, and then everybody decides to leave for the next biggest social platform, and there were like all these arguments, and I hear the same arguments today. And guess what? When I heard them the first time with Facebook, I was like, I get it. It's like an argument. It's like I can't like totally shut that down. I can provide some counter arguments, but at the end of the day, like, you're either optimistic about something or you're pessimistic about it. And if you're pessimistic about it, like, put your money where your mouth is and short it, or stay away from it, and that's fine. But the problem is imagine the things in your life that you thought weren't going to be great, weren't going to be good investments, and turned out to be good investments. I've had a bunch of those. Eventually I invested in quite a few of them. And so that was usually when the price was doing quite well. And then I rode the trend and the price did even better. I think the Tether argument is, I think it is problematic for Tether and for other stable coins. And I think it's probably problematic for some of the altcoins in the altcoin market. I honestly don't think it's problematic. If anything, I think it may be good for Bitcoin, because it'll reinforce the store value use case for Bitcoin being this immutable, ultimately scarce, finite asset that is unhackable and has, and is just kind of this incredible technological innovation. And so, all the smart money, they're looking at all these arguments, trust me. And so when they're taking $500 million and putting it into, into Bitcoin and taking their whole company, MicroStrategy took their whole company's balance sheet and put it into Bitcoin. And then Michael Saylor, the CEO, took an additional $200 million of his own private wealth and put it into Bitcoin. And, when these big smart money people are doing that, it's not like they haven't looked at the Tether argument, or they haven't looked at the, solar flare or electromagnetic pulse argument, or US, shutting it down, or whatever, or China owning all the miners, whatever it is. Like there's arguments, and I think that personally, I see the upside. I think we're extremely early, and I see the upside potential far outweighing the downside potential. I think that there's always risks to everything. And look, a boat wasn't created to stay in the harbor and stay at the dock. It was created to go sail in the ocean where there's big waves and storms and typhoons and stuff. And so, are you going to keep your boat docked up, or are you going to let it sail? And I've chosen to vote with my capital, and I've put, a good amount of it into Bitcoin. So we'll see what happens. And I don't think Tether unraveling is going to hurt Bitcoin at all. I've got 10% of my net worth into it, and I'm definitely bullish on it. And I've got, I'm 10% of my net worth into gold and silver as well. And probably more in real estate and, more safe assets. But, the stock market's is a nightmare, I think. Who knows what's going to happen? That's scary. That's a scary place with the valuations that they are now. Like, where are you going to go get alpha from right now? I mean, it's like, it's insane.
It's a behemoth. It's a monster. It's like, are you going to buy Amazon at this valuation? I mean, that's why it's just so hard to find anything of value there right now.
It is. Even better than Bitcoin, the best investment for everyone is to invest in themselves and education and, starting a company. I mean, the American dream is to start a business. And I think that I love the small business owner. And I'm an investor, an early stage investor and founder in several businesses. And I think that, if you can think of, if you've got a great idea and you could put some money to work in a business and in yourself or in an education, then that's always going to be your best investment. So, I would put that before I would speculate in Bitcoin. And then before I would, speculate in Bitcoin, I would definitely make sure that you have yourself diversified and, but to take a certain amount of your income and put it towards alternative assets so that you kind of decouple from the currency risk that's rising in the world, I think it's a good move. One of the companies that I've just started, I mean, we've got several companies with my partners, but we started a CBD tincture and beauty health line. And, with COVID and with all the anxiety and stress that's out there, health has become more important than ever. And so, we're in Fort Collins, which is FOCO, F-O-C-O. And so FOCOorganics.com, we have a really incredible top of the line product there. And I'm really proud of it. I'm really proud of the team. And, even if you're not into CBD, or I'm a physician, and the stigma is starting to break down. And so we're all kind of excited about it because, it's helping arthritis, it's helping sleep, anxiety, all kinds of problems. But that's a company I'm really, proud of. And it's a company that I've invested in. And so, if anybody wants to help support the company, that'd be great. Otherwise, feel free to take a look and feel free to reach out to me on Twitter. I do public speaking and I love doing podcasts and whatnot. I'm Noah Kaufman, MD, 1 F and 1 N, and Noah Kaufman. And then again, our website is FOCOorganics.com, FOCO Organics, F-O-C-O Organics. And Elliot, it's really been a pleasure. I think Bitcoin is going to change a lot of people's lives. And, while it's not financial advice, I think the risk is not investing in Bitcoin right now.